Welcome Motivation Sunday. Welcome Motivation Sunday.
Welcome to another edition of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. Hey, for those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, let me tell you how we all got started. I got together with my good friends, PJ, Denise, Vanessa, the voice of our show, Otis Spencer, my brother from another mother, Mr. Christopher James, and Mrs. Blue. Matter of fact, Dr. Blue. To most of us, she's a magazine owner, all that other good stuff. And originally, the show was surrounded by the more than 300 quotes that I have for the contents of my book. Well, I didn't want the show to be all about me. And because I know that everyone else walks around with these quotes that we keep repeating, but we actually know what they mean? So based on our interpretation and perspective, we all got together, and each week one of us brings a quote. This week I'm bringing it by Winston Churchill, and we based on our experience and how the quote attaches to us. We had this conversation. We meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we throw out this quote. So without further ado, let me welcome all of you to Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. So, Otis, if you don't mind, um, since I'm bringing a quote today, introduce the quote.
Absolutely. And the quote today: success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm.
By Winston Churchill. So let me ask all of you something. Okay. How do you respond when things go wrong, as they sometimes will? Well, most people, failure um, turns out to be the end of the road. They give up, they turn their back, they get discouraged, they lose their energy, and they stop trying. What if failure isn't the problem? What if the real problem is how we see failure? Today's quote challenges all of us to rethink everything that we believe about success. It tells us that success is not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's all about falling, learning, getting back up, keeping the same energy you had when you started. Because people who win at this life are not the ones that never fail. They are the ones that refuse to lose the enthusiasm in the adventure that they're on. So I'm going to turn this out to one of the queens on the show. If you don't mind, Miss PJ Scout, how does this quote land on you?
Oh, Kevin, this is some quote. And I'm sorry, guys, but I have a lot to say today. This one hit me hard. So, what Winston Churchill left unsaid is that he didn't go it alone when he failed. He surrounded himself with a small, fiercely capable circle. Failure, the F word. It can feel less like enthusiasm and more like broken and bruised. That's the part that no one puts on a poster. So we reach for words like perseverance. But maybe it's not the polished Churchill kind. Maybe it's the deeper kind. It's not about how you feel after the fall, but what you refuse to surrender while you're still on the ground. It's showing up when the story you have in your head gets louder than your faith. It's taking one more step. When the path ahead feels less like a plan and more like a question, kind that says, I don't have the energy, but I'm still here. I don't have clarity, but I'm not walking away. I don't feel strong, but something in me hasn't decided to stop. Because many of our hardest battles aren't with others, they're with ourselves. Fear of the future, old wounds from the past, a broken heart, a tired mind, a wounded spirit. And what do? We push it down. We ignore it. We assume it's going to go away on its own. But it rarely does. Because those wounds they're not and much different from a broken bone. When a bone breaks, we don't pretend it's fine. We don't push through and hope for the best. We get help. We have it reset so it can heal the way it was meant to. And sometimes healing means going back to the break and facing it, letting it be seen so it can be set properly. But a broken heart, mind, or spirit, that can remain an open wound for decades. I know because I've been there. For most of my life, I thought I could just put on my big girl thong and carry on. Keep moving, keep performing, keep pretending it didn't hurt. We may not fight our battles in the cabinet room of 10 Downing Street or on a battlefield or in a hospital, but there are places we can go and there are people we can turn to form our own Churchill-esque fierce circle, to ask for help, to do the work, to heal the right way. So as we stumble from failure to failure, we will persevere. Because broken and bruised is not the opposite for perseverance. It's often the birthplace of it, the end.
Way to go, way to go, way to go, way to go. And everyone's applauding. And you have everyone's attention. PJ, you make a man think. All right. Yeah, buddy, you do. It's amazing how a person mindset determines their response to their setbacks. I mean, when I first saw this quote, the first thing that I thought about is that, and we've all been there. We've all been a baby. We've come into this world, didn't know how to walk, didn't know how to talk, all right? Didn't know how to put words together, didn't even have our own opinion. Did you ever notice how many times a baby walks, when he first tries to stand up, he's gripping onto everything and all of a sudden he falls down, he sits there, turns around to see if mom or dad's checking him out, reaches up, nothing happens, so he gets up again. All right, he walks. And then all of a sudden, after repeating that for a couple of days, you come out of the kitchen, you come out of the bathroom, or you come home from work, and guess what happens? Your son and daughter is walking around, doing that little dance, walking, and it is just the biggest smile that anyone can have on their face. I mean, look how serious we take failure as adults. We fall and we just sit there. We go, woe is me. What's the problem? Why is it always happening to me? And whatever. And then we look at other people that have successes, and then we hear their stories. And they said, well, why did I give up? Why, I was going through stuff. My grandfather always said, excuses only sound good to the person that's saying them, but PJ, your response is that it's a mindset. Failure is a mindset. And that's the reason why so many people that succeed celebrate all those shortcomings in life. If it hadn't been for, Albert Einstein, turned to the brother that was sitting in the room and says, can you help me light up the world? And he goes, sure, bro, I can do that. All right, here, this is what you need. You need this filament. Lights on. All right, no clapping for granny at that time. So enough of me just kind of rambling on. I'm going to ask brother Christopher James, a brother from another mother, how this quote lands on him. And first, let me say this to you, and I'll say it every single week. Thank you for your service. Thank you. In the military family, I was not honored with the privilege of wearing the uniform, but I have a lot of respect for those, no matter what your mindset is and how you see the world, the fact that you're serving for the cause. I say I much appreciate it. I salute you, my brother.
My response has always been, thank you for the acknowledgement. The service was my pleasure. Thank you so much for receiving. Hey, this saying, first off, I want to give it up to Mr. Well, here's a funny thing about, I instantly thought of, okay, stumbling. Everybody thinks, sailors are mainly, warriors that stumble all throughout the world, all the different ports. Well, we learned early that, sailors may drink, but we never stumble. I mean, we can be as drunk as we need to be. We will not stumble. You'll never know until you ask us, are you drunk? And we'll lie and say, of course not. But anyway, the idea of succeeding, the idea of going on, no matter how many times it seems as if you fail. With me, and I'm thinking back to all the people that who have taught me over the years, all of the things I received. No matter what the goal is, it's going to be tough. We expect that, but a lot of times it's more of the appreciation of what the different attempts feel like, or I won't call them failures, but the misses and the falls, recognizing them for what they are. They're simply, one more stage that you have to accomplish to get to that goal. And if you keep in mind that that's all those interruptions are, or just different stages you've got to complete to get to your goal, then you forget about them. I don't think about failures. I don't remember failures. They aren't part of my mental process. I simply see them as one more thing that I've got to overcome, I've got to achieve, I've got to beat to get to that reward. And the stumbles, they're just learning opportunities. Just one more thing that I picked up that, okay, that doesn't work. I'll try this. And just one more step to that goal. And that's, if I need to recognize the stumble, that's all the stumble is. It's one more thing that you need to recognize, you need to fix to get to that goal. So I don't really count stumbles. I don't even keep track of them. If you tell me I stumble, I'm going to tell you I'm a sailor. I never stumble. I'm not drunk. You're drunk. Just kidding. But no, stumbles are simply one more step to that goal.
It's amazing to listen to someone, and I know your story. When you hear successful people, they embrace their failures differently. And you gave a whole nother perspective because as a military person, whatever, pride comes into that. It says no matter how much you've had to drink or where your thought process is, when you step out in public, there's a certain responsibility that you carry. It's not to waver from cause. All right? To stay steady. And this made me think of, and I'm so glad I don't take notes of how what I'm going to say doing these shows, for the simple fact that you guys keep speaking every thought that I had. But this one just popped up in my head. I looked at the fact that everyone's talking about original AI and what AI is doing. But when you talk about it, and I equate this quote to where original AI was invented, and I look at Nessa, I look at Dr. Blue, I look at Denise, and I look at PJ, women throughout our whole existence as human beings, they are the original AI. They are the original members of team success. You think about it. I mean, How many meals would you have eaten if you had to be the only cook, Otis or Christopher? You know, how would you have stepped out of the house if mom or your mom, your grandmother, auntie, or PJ or any of these guys would say, you ain't wearing that out in public, whatever. You know, they laid the pathway for success. They allowed the groundwork to be set up for failure. And they also allowed you to have the emotional stability to recognize that you could still go on no matter what obstacle was placed before you. I mean, we don't give women enough credit, I will tell you. All right. But I do know real men, we give women all the credit because without any of you, none of us would be half of what we are. All right. We're the shadow of where the sun shines, but the sun shines on you three women and every woman that listens to this podcast. So without further ado, I know all of us have children. Vanessa, I want to ask you, how does this quote land on you? I rambled enough.
Well, good day to all. This is very profound because I have been on a journey. It's been an 8-year journey, and I'm a very innovative person. And just like every inventor, they had to start from scratch and then they would experiment and they would fail. And they would do experiment again and they would fail. Sometimes they would throw it all away and start fresh. And I've been doing that. Yet the premise is still there. And I literally remember throwing away my business plan. It was out on the curb, and I had thrown it away a couple times before and took it out of the garbage. It literally was on the curb as I was selling my house, liquidating my assets, going through a divorce. And I saw it poking out of the bag. And I took it out. And I'm still going through the process, almost there. But it's like through all the trials and tribulations of life, we have so many failures. Like you said, from when we were children and we were learning how to walk and we fall and we get up like, da, 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 da. We do the same, even as performers. I remember I was a professional twirler, and I started my twirling career when I was 8 and went into competitive twirling. And I remember my senior year, due to a previous injury in softball, tearing all my ligaments in my right knee, which was the knee that I used to do my aerials. Here I am in the middle of the football field, and kaboom, my knee went out on me. I fell in the middle of a competition with thousands of people watching. But I got up and smiled and continued the performance. So I think back at all these people that have failed. And I love that you mentioned women. We just had a huge thing that happened up to the moon. And because of a woman, a colored woman, they have found a way to come back, and how they like do the whole boomerang. I can't tell you the logistics of it, but it's amazing. She was just a number cruncher in the room with math, but she figured it out. And they used that for this launch and for the return, which I thought was spectacular. So one of the things that I always tell people, and people notice about me too, is my resilience. Because when I have all these beautiful, amazing things that I have in my head that I want to project, and I love P.T. Barnum when, like that song, "A Million Dreams Will Make This World the Way We Want It." I have so many dreams, and I relate to that so much. And we have to keep dreaming. So don't give up on your dreams and be resilient. Resilience.
All right.
Resilience.
All right. All right. Yeah, redefining your failures is just part of the process. And it's all attitude. Otis, the voice of our show, and I am going to say this, and I say this every single week. There's someone out there in Hollywood that needs a voice. And I'm putting this out there because I know you won't say it yourself, but you are one of those top 10 voices that have yet to been discovered. So if you don't mind, with that silky smooth voice of yours, for the people that just tuned in, to deliver this quote by Winston Churchill one more time.
Right. Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm.
I'm going to ask my educator, Denise, on here, and we're all educators, but I'm going to ask a question along because of what you do, because you're constantly fighting a system that doesn't allow you to let loose of the creative process. So how do you keep the enthusiasm critical long term when you're educating young people, and tie it into this quote, if you don't mind? I don't mean to take you away from your quote, but I also need to put out the fact that if no one else is going to say it, is that our education system is going to crap, and we need to save it before it's totally destroyed. But anyway, that's enough of me rambling. Denise, how's this quote land on you?
Hi, everyone. Oh, this quote is, it's heavy. For me, this quote is something I had to learn, that failure is a lesson, that I have to keep going, because now I don't ask why me. I just ask, what is this here to teach me? What I'm supposed to learn from my failures? Because I had a lot of them, especially when it comes to education. Some rooms that I enter when I spoke too soon. So now I'm like, I've learned to be listening, just listening and observe how people are acting, how they perceiving me, because I'm an advocate anyways, and I'm always advocating for my students. So I started to start in my classroom instead of going and just keep on complaining, and just people not seeing what I'm trying to do, like what's my motivation. So I started my classroom. So that was the failure with the people like fighting. I know they were like butt heads with people that did not understand what I was coming from. So now I start with my classroom. So with my students, they was like, I can't do this. So I have a quote every day. We have to say it. I am smart. I am blessed. I could do anything. So sometimes I forget to go, Miss Luz, we're not saying our quote for today. What's our affirmation? And there's another affirmation I kept because I had to learn that myself. I belong in every room I enter. So that's the second affirmation that my students, I keep them to say, like, you belong in every room you enter. So you need to know that. So for me, that's what I had to learn, because I feel to not know. Like sometimes you enter a room, you're like, I don't belong here. Like that thing that this is not where I'm supposed to be, but I'm exactly what I'm supposed to be, what God wants me to be. So for me, failures are a lesson. I'm learning. And right now I'm in school, I'm doing my doctorate, and it's all talking about the education. Like you said, education in America was not meant for us. It was built for the white people, for the white children to be educated, and it was used against us. So it was against the law to be literate, like to be able to learn. So I'm learning the education of the American education system, and I was reading it, and I'm like, whoa, this was not made for me. So it's like, for me to be doing my doctorate, it's a privilege, because I failed so much. I had to learn English. And for me, I'm giving that back to my students. Like, if I did it, you could do it. So we all fail. I tell them, like, sometimes like, oh, I don't know how to read. I don't know how to spell this. I'm like, you don't know. You're going to fail until you learn. Like, failure is a lesson. So take it as a lesson and not a punishment. So that's how it landed on me.
You're exactly right. Failure is a lesson. And every time that you run up against an obstacle and you overcome that obstacle, you grow. It's just part of the growing process. And the fact is, we can't do anything about history as long as we don't repeat it. But we can go ahead and adopt a mindset that we not only educate ourselves about the country that we live in, the history that we've been exposed to, and the history that we're about to create. And that's the given. Here in Pennsylvania, they are trying to eliminate property tax. And the reason why they want to eliminate property tax is a hidden agenda. People don't pay property tax. It means that there's no public school system.
Yep. Because
And who does the public school system affect? The people that are marginalized, the
yep, the
people
low
that
income.
can't afford whatever. So it's time to turn back the pages of where it's almost going to be illegal for our children, no matter black, white, or whatever color of skin. If you're not at a certain economic status in your community, you're going to be left behind because books won't be allowed to you. The private sector, there will be private schools, they won't be allowed. And then again, there's a lot of conversation that I can have on this. But I also understand that the process of being an entrepreneur, we have to wear many hats, we have to walk through many doors. We have many conversations about when we start up, and I'm talking about Dr. Blue that has a very successful magazine. That when you tell people, we've all been through this. I mean, how many of us actors have told someone, that we're going on an audition, and then your friends turn around and say, "Yeah, Christopher and Kevin be waiting tables next week," But all of a sudden, you see Naheem that's in there co-starring alongside of Sandra Bullock and Freeman and a bunch of other people, and you go, "Wow." Stephen King was the same way. Had his wife picking up that manuscript, we'd have never had a Stephen King. All right. And failure just happens to be the cousin to opportunity. And if opportunity was provided equally for every single person in here, we have no excuse. Knock on as many doors as you want, have as many clothes on you, but the opportunity to have that door open to you and you be able to prove yourself, doesn't matter what degree you have, doesn't matter what parents you have. But if you have the potential and the gumption to do the work, all right, then there's no such thing as failure. Opportunity is where hope is, helping other people every day. So, Miss Blue, Dr. Stephanie Blue, all right, you have a very successful magazine. It didn't start out that way. A lot of people didn't believe in you. You still got people talking trash about you behind your back and then shaking your hand and said, "Take me out to dinner" afterwards. This quote, how does it land on you?
Hey guys, this quote hit me, you know. It's so funny. I'm going to tell you a little story before I touch on that too, right? You know how some people always ask you like, who's your hero? Like, who's your shero? You know? And when I heard this quote, it happened to me again. Um, my hero is Wild E. Coyote. And I believe that I said that before. Wild E. Coyote. And people just look at me like, has she lost her mind? No, I have not. Because I remember as a kid watching the Roadrunner. And every single morning, Wild E. Coyote, the sun would rise, he would get up, and he had a plan. Every single day, he had a plan, and his plan was to get that Roadrunner. Yes, PJ, his plan was to get that Roadrunner, and he went out and he tried the first time, and guess what happened? He failed, right? And then he'd end up with a broken arm, and then he'd try again, and then you'd see him with a patch over his forehead. He'd try again, and he had that cane on his foot. By the end of the night, right, when the sun was setting, he would limp home after being run over by a train, being thrown off of a cliff. Like you talk about, I've tried, I've given everything, and so he truly stumbled from failure to failure. But wake up the next morning, he didn't have any cane. He had no patch over his eye. His arm wasn't bandaged, and he was ready to start fresh and anew. I'm going to try again. Guess what? The same thing happened each and every day, but he never lost his enthusiasm. Every single morning when he woke up, he was still as enthusiastic as he was before. And I love that. And that's what we need to learn how to do. Like, how are we between failures? right? And making a decision that we want to try again, how are we attacking that next try again? Are we attacking it with the, oh God, okay, so I think I'm gonna have to try again, or I made a mistake, but maybe, or the excuses that we tell ourselves, maybe God didn't want this for me. If God gave it to you, then he wants it for you, right? It's up to you what you want to do with it. But to be able to attack it again and again with that same zest, that same vigor that you had the first time, without carrying the baggage from the past, but being wise enough to know, right, where the rocks are in the river. So you can just go from place to place to place to place, but still being enthusiastic about it. When I started the Connect to Blue magazine, it's for entrepreneurs. The magazine is for entrepreneurs. It's not for anything else. It's nothing political. It's just for entrepreneurs to promote their businesses and to talk about their business. And I tell you, from the time when I first have a conversation with them to maybe 3 months down the line, the ones that have not been successful in their right? Because success is determined on how you feel about a situation. And some of them come back and they're like, oh, Miss Blue, I don't know if this is gonna, and having to be that cheerleader, because sometimes we just need to be a cheerleader for folks, right? We need to, yes, you can. Yes, look, my pom-poms, someone asked me one time before, on Zoom, why I do like this, because these are pom-poms. I'm cheering folks on, and that's what it is that we need to do. But we also need to be at that point where we can cheer ourselves on. And if you failed being able to say, okay, well, I gotta get my Wild E. Coyote on. I just gotta wipe myself off, and I've gotta brush off, and guess what? Beep, beep, I am at it tomorrow. So that's what I have, and that's where that quote landed on me.
That's all right. That's all right. Hey, PJ, Otis, I don't know how you feel, but PJ said this weeks ago, is that when I walk in the room with all of you, I feel taller. I'm 5'10" and a half. I used to be 5'11". I don't know what happened to the other half inch, But anyway, I'm taller today now that I'm with you guys. And I know Tom and Jerry are asking Miss Blue, how come you didn't watch my show? Tom was going through the same thing the Roadrunner did. Jerry was putting it to him every single day, but he kept trying. All right. So, basically consistency is the key. Adopt this phrase when you're trying to do something different. All right. No one has the blueprint to exactly why people succeed. All right. We're all building a plane while flying. Once we're in the air, let's figure out a way to keep it up. Once we surround ourselves with like-minded people that shows up to work every single day, like you guys did today, show up every single day in order to make the person that's name is on this show successful. That's the reason why people are successful. No one do this one thing alone. I'm going to tell you, if anyone tells you they are a self-made man or woman, they're lying to you. Either mom, pop, grandpa left them a lot of money, to start off their business. And all of a sudden they've risen to the top and said, I struggle. If someone gives you $1 million, you ain't struggling. All right. You ain't struggling. And if you lost $10 million of your family's money and all of a sudden you're making money and you got the highest seat in there, you ain't struggling. All right. It's the people that come up, first Black woman that ever became a millionaire in Harlem, straightening hair. She struggled. You look at the fact that, you look at Michael Jordan, he just joined an elite class of individuals of color that received an Oscar because he struggled. The nice thing about it is that the 7 other men that share his same success, they put the footprints in the sand for his not to be a struggle as hard as theirs. Ask Sidney Poitier, what it was like. Guess who's coming to dinner? Sidney Poitier. All right. So we all have to learn. Our struggles are real. but the people that succeed in life, and no matter how you determine life, be it your bank account, be it your relationship, be it your athletic endeavors, if the position that you impact a child that's grown up that has come from a impoverished situation, all of a sudden they are shining and thriving. Be it someone that didn't understand what the internet and whatever, and then all of a sudden you get someone like PJ that's turned around and said, I got you. All right. Being the same way with Dr. Blue. You know, get a phone call in the middle of the night, you have a phone call, and someone says, I'm just thinking about you. Or having, someone travel 2 or 3 states away. And on a Sunday afternoon, they could spend time with their family and friends. And Otis, Christopher, Gildan, whatever, just have breakfast with you. Make sure they want to see you. All right. This struggle is real. This quote, I don't know. Otis, why don't you stop me from rambling? I'm just going on and on. All right.
You can go on and on.
We've come to that time of the show, when Otis and I have to follow so many great conversations. Otis, if you don't mind giving us that quote one more time, and then giving us your interpretation or perspective on this quote.
All righty. Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. I've also heard that allegedly Winston Churchill also said, never, never, never give up. Or you think of another quote. If at first you don't succeed, you try again. You learn something more after each try. You may succeed after a try, but if you don't, then you learn something to keep going. Because the only time we fail is when you give up. So keep going.
Man, oh man. Otis, I'm going to tell you, if I had a voice like yours, I'd have never had a problem getting a date. Listen to the way that I fell in love with you, and I'm straight. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to that time in the show where the last person gets to speak is me. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you like what you've heard, you can find us on our YouTube page, RMK Productions and Network. If you want to follow, subscribe, or make any comments, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to. We're just happy that you tuned in. And if you have a quote, put it in the comments. We'll use your quote. Doesn't always have to depend on us. And just explain to us how that quote landed on you. And we'll spotlight you on the next show. But anyway, so giving some thought to what everyone says. And you guys are so smart, so hard to follow you. But I'm going to speak to the one person that's actually listening and taking notes to this podcast. I'm going to tell you, and I'm talking directly to you. Don't let failure, energy, let it shape or sharpen your focus. Every setback is a setup for growth. And if you choose to keep going, success isn't just about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you rise with the same level of passion, enthusiasm, and your beliefs. Keep your enthusiasm high. Keep your drive. Keep your eyes straight on the road. Keep moving forward. Because your journey itself is building the person you want to become. Now, without my grandfather, I'm going to tell you, without him, my uncles, my cousin, my coaches, whatever, I probably would not be the man that I am today. But my grandfather always said, when you get to a place in life or a point in life where you can help someone else out, he said it's your duty to do so. He said, reach one, teach one. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we do what?
We fade
to black.
Yes.
And don't forget to come back.
Yes.
All right. Until next week with a new quote. I want you to stay positive. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are out. Till next time. Ciao.
Bye.
Welcome Motivation Sunday with Kevin and friends.